Right, welcome everyone to the What Are We Now? July Internet Business Meetup Group. Sorry about last month. Nigel and I did actually have Monty scheduled in for last month, but unfortunately we were both out of town, so we were not able to have the meetup. But fortunately tonight Monty has agreed to come along and make up for last month where we weren't able to do so. And Monty comes to us from AussieWebConversions.com. That's correct, isn't it? Yep. Yeah, up on the board up there. And Monty's CEO of Aussie Web Conversions and is an AdWords expert, paid search expert, I'd like to think as well. So tonight, what I'd like you to do is just, if you've got mobile phones, if you could just mute them before we start, that'd be great, so that we don't interrupt what's going on. Do you like questions from the floor during?
Absolutely.
Okay, so fire your questions at Monty as he's going through, or write them down and ask him at the end. The general premise for tonight will be, we will start now. Monty will give his presentation, what, 45 an hour, something like that?
30 to 45.
Yeah. We'll take Q&A after that, and then we can just break and mingle. And we're out at 8:30. Got to be out by 8:30. Other than that, thanks very much, Monty, and over to you.
Good.
Show me your pocket. Yeah, great.
G'day. How you doing?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Okay. I spend all my life getting people traffic on the web. That's all we do. I do that with paid search. I do that with search engine optimization. I do that with social media marketing. I'm mainly going to be focusing on Google today, and I'll tell you why. But if you have any questions while I'm talking, just shout them out and I'll answer them as I go. If your bullshit detector goes off, stop me, because everything that I'm talking about today is evidence-based. It can all be found on the internet. Come on in. In some respects, it is rocket science. But so if something goes off and you don't understand what I'm talking about, just stop me right there so I can explain it. Fair enough? Deal? There's nothing wrong with your hearing. I speak funny. I've been in this country for 24 years and I still sound like a damn Yank. But I can't do anything about that, because when I watch intelligent television like The Simpsons, my lips move. So I still sound like a Yank. But everything I'm going to be talking about is all Australian-based in an Australian environment, okay? Because there are some differences culturally in different parts of the world. I want to start with this slide. This is a heat map study. This is what happens when somebody does a search on Google. And so you can see the Google search up there, and the red intensity is where your eye is. The purple X's are where you click. The red lines are where different screen resolution cuts off, whether it's my MacBook Air or an iPad or a big 22-inch Samsung screen. Okay? Let me give you some data first off. Google owns 94% of the search environment in Australia. 94% of us use Google as the search engine. 4% use Yahoo Bing. 2% still use those idiots from Senseless, right? But not many of them. So Google owns this space, right? I get to do a lot of lecturing with Google. I get to use their logo and my company and everything else. Come on in. Because I've been working with Google for 9 years. They're only a 12-year-old company. They weren't even publicly listed back then. So I've spent a lot of time with Google. If you start typing my name, Monty Hipsch, into a Google search, you'll see it come up with instant, and it'll say Google Guru. And I get to speak on a lot of conferences on behalf of Google. The reason I say all of that is because 94% are using Google, and the data goes on. I used to say 80% don't go past the front page. Google has made you dumb. It's made me dumb. 95% of people no longer go past the first page of Google. So if you're not on the first page, you don't exist, right? Second thing is scrolling. You know that little wheel or mouse you got? 85% of people don't scroll. They click above the fold, up there. Unless Elle Macpherson's naked to here, I'm not scrolling. It ain't going to happen.
Can I ask where you get that data from?
Yep.
Yep. Where's the data from?
The 95% is from Google, not going past the first page. The 85%, I have a citation for that. I'll have to look it up. But it's current. Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, there are the 15% that scroll and there's the 5% that go to page 2. So, but for the most part, they don't, right? Now, there's only 3 ways to get on the front page of Google, right? One is you pay to be there, which is Google AdWords, which is what I'm going to mainly be talking about. And that, surprisingly, is the first 3 listings that come up here. And that's where the clicks are, right? So if you want to be on the front page of Google, you pay to be there. The second thing is, if you've got any online presence at all today, you're getting an email or 2 or 3 every day of somebody telling you they can get you on the front page of Google using search engine optimization. Quit paying for your clicks, and they'll guarantee you all sorts of stuff. Some of them are from the UK, some of them are from Canada, and after you give them their money, you'll never see it again. Right? There's a lot of snake oil salesmen in the search engine optimization space. The third way to get to the front page of Google is if somebody's doing a local search, there's a local intent in what they're doing, and you see what used to be called Google Places, it's now called Google Local Plus, right? That's where if you claim your business listing in Google Local Plus, which used to be Google Places, you will in fact come up for localized searches, okay? It's all under change right at the moment, what Google is doing with Google Places. There's going to be a new dashboard out. Google was in my office today. I said, when's the damn thing going to show up? And they said, soon. So it'll be a couple of months. But if you haven't claimed your listing in Google Places, you should if you trade out of a physical location. All right? Does that make sense? Those are the only 3 ways to get on the front page of Google. Now, search engine optimization has got more snake oil salesmen and bullshit artists in the world in that space. What you need to do is Google this document. It's called the Search Engine Optimization Starter Guide. It was updated by Google in November 7th last year. It's 32 pages. It's got 12 things you need to do. And if you build your website compliant with this 12 things, you've done 99% of anything that can be done in search engine optimization. It's called the Google Search Engine Optimization Starter Guide. It is the Bible. Even if you don't do it yourself, roll it up into a tube and smack your web developer on the head to make sure that they're doing it. It covers the fact that you should have a mobile version of your website. It covers the fact that you should manage your reputation online with social media and claim a business page in Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and have a YouTube video channel. Okay? It's all in here. Everything else anybody else tells you, if they've got some secret sauce or something else, they're lying to you. Right? The only thing you can do after you've done everything that's in this document is get some link building going. And that's it. There is nothing else you can do. Yes?
What was the name again?
It's called Search Engine Optimization Starter Guide. Put in Google Search Engine Optimization Starter Guide. It's 4.3 megabytes, 32 pages. It's the first 4 chapters of the Bible. Nobody reads anything else anyway. Okay? Right? The problem is if you do everything perfectly in compliance with this document, you will maybe get here. Right? Because Google's going to have ads up on the top. Because that's how a $40 billion company makes its money. Does that make sense? You're looking at me funny. Okay? All right.
What was the third one? The third way again?
Google Places.
Places.
Yeah.
Really only applies if you have a
It only applies
bricks and mortar style.
physical location. Yeah, it won't do much for you if you're a pure internet play. Now, I get people that come to me all the time and say, listen, we want to get found on the front page of Google. We need more traffic. We need to do this. We need to do that. The first question I ask them is, do you have Google Analytics installed? Most of them say no, which is a real dumb thing. Because Google Analytics used to be a product called Urchin. Google bought the company. It used to cost $5,000 a year to have it on your website. Google now gives it to everybody for free. It's 3 snippets of Java code that go on every page of your website. It's a cut and paste activity. If a web developer tells you it's going to take them an hour or 2, they're lying. It's just a search and replace. And it's the most voyeuristic thing in the world. It tells you everything that's going on your site. It tells you where the traffic came from. Is it coming from Google? Is it coming from Bing? Is it coming from Facebook? What pages they went to? The amount of time they spent on their site. My problem is I get people that come to me and they want me to drive traffic to the website, and I know it's going to fail. And I don't need their money. I really don't. And I sit there and say, let's put Google Analytics first on and see how your website is performing. Start with the end in mind. I had a major international corporation, the Entrepreneurs Organization, call me up the other day. I was in a global conference call with people from around the world looking at how to improve their SEO. And I waited for about 5 minutes before I lost my patience. And I said, you were stupid enough to send me the data before I got here, and Google Analytics tells me that 66% of the people that come to the site spend less than a minute, they visit one page, and they bounce out. I said, the problem isn't driving more traffic to your website. The problem is getting a website that engages with people and converts, right? So if you sit there and come and say, Monty, go do some paid search for me, drive traffic to my website. I don't care whether it's from Facebook or Yahoo. I happen to be a Yahoo ambassador as well as a Google guru. I don't care, right? Because it isn't going to work. They're going to spend all their money and it's going to go down the drain. So if you don't have Google Analytics installed and you haven't collected at least 100 clicks of data, which is statistically significant, and I can show you the math if you want me to, you're wasting your time. Because you don't know it's like driving a car without having a dashboard. Why would you do that? You don't know where you're going, you don't know what's happening. And analytics is a powerful tool. It'll display in real time. You can see people on the site where they're going. You'll see which content in your site is most engaging. You'll see what pages they are on when they leave. You'll see in your sales funnel if they're going through the checkout and they bail, why. You'll know what pages they were on or what they were doing when they left. If you haven't installed Google Analytics and you haven't spent time analyzing the effectiveness and efficiency of your website, why do SEO? Why do anything? Who has Google Analytics installed? Who doesn't? Well, you're going to now, aren't you? It's free. Just Google Analytics. It's there. It's a snippet of code. You whack it in. And don't get me wrong, just because it's called Google Analytics, like I said, I'm a Yahoo ambassador as well. We do Yahoo work, and we even asked Yahoo Bing and said, who should we use to track the effectiveness of your advertising on our website? They said Google Analytics. So it'll tell you everything. Okay? So my attitude on anything that has to do with Google AdWords is start with analytics and figure out what you're doing first. Does that make sense? Okay. I don't have screen captures of Google AdWords. I'm not going through that. I'm just going to talk to you about the industry best practice of how you set up Google AdWords. Google AdWords has got all sorts of online training and all sorts of stuff. But the point is, and the whole intention of it, never forget, the whole intention of running Google AdWords is to get so that your ads show up here. Because that's where the clicks are going to be. All right? Google is the most intellectually arrogant company on the planet. They do not negotiate. They tell you how things are going to be. You do it Google's way or you do it no way. Right? If you try to complain to Google and try to find a phone number to call anybody to talk to, and you won't find it. And if you do find it and you get somebody, they'll say send an email here and they'll hang up on you. They've got no customer service relationship management at all. I've been to the Googleplex in Sydney a multitude of times. I went in there one time and I asked one of their guys about part of the algorithm and how it all works. And he went blah, 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 blah. And I said, I got that first bit. Can you repeat the second bit? He said, go back to university, get another degree. When you're smarter, come back. That's what he told me. I had a business development woman that worked down at Google who used to look after our company. She got fired by the machine. She went to work one day, turned on her computer, it said, you haven't met your KPIs, leave your badge on the way out. They are not a human resource company. They're not warm and fuzzy. right? All that crap you hear about the Googleplex, which is true. From the time you walk in the morning, you can drop off your dry cleaning and they'll clean it for you. You can get your hair cut, you can get a massage, you can get breakfast cooked in 4 different ethnic styles. You get lunch at 5 o'clock, you get beer, and you get to spend 20% of your time doing whatever you damn well please, as long as you work a 14-hour day. Because if you don't, you're never going to survive in their environment. So all that crap you hear about what a great place it is to work, I don't believe. But it's Google's way or no way. And when Google runs their auctions, which is how the AdWords system works, you're bidding, you're competing for words, whether it's polka dot string bikini as a search term. I'm not picking on you, by the way.
No, that's okay.
If it's polka dot string bikini, they want to then see an ad that's written talking about we have the greatest range of polka dot string bikinis. And then they want to land on the page in your site that has polka dot string bikinis. You can't land them on the home page that's got solid colored ones and 2 pieces and tankinis and Google doesn't like that. Google says from the search term to the ad copy that you've written in your ad to the page they land on your website must be congruent. It's got to be uniform all the way across. This affects the navigation of web design. Because if you're a company that provides a bunch of different services and you've got one page that has services and it's got 10 different things you do, you're going to have a problem running AdWords. Because you're going to run somebody to a page that's got multiple things on it. And Google's going to give it what they call a quality score, a low quality score. So Google says, and if you're going to play in this space at all, you've got to play by Google's rules. So you need to segregate out every single concept that you're dealing with in your web presence so that you can have a particular phrase, write a specific ad for that, and land them on that page in the site. Does that make sense? Right? Doesn't matter what you think. Google's right. You can't argue with them. Stomp your foot, threaten to sue them. They don't care. Go for your life. Right? That's the way they want it done. And I've gone to so many websites where I've had to tell people, listen, we've got to change the whole navigation, the design of your site. And they're like, why? And I said, because we're never going to be able to have a successful AdWords campaign driving traffic to a page that's got a complete range of all your services. When the person searched on a specific thing, they've got to go to a page that's all about that topic. Does that make sense? Google doesn't negotiate this stuff. Fortunately, when you set up an AdWords campaign, if you're bidding on polka dot bikinis, and you've written a really good ad on polka dot bikinis, but then you land them on the home page where they have to do a search again to find polka dot bikinis, Google will have a quality score there. It's 1 to 10. And if it's crap, they'll tell you, you're a 1 or a 2. If you're a 1 or a 2, don't waste your time running AdWords, because you're never going to fix that until you've changed what you're doing. It's non-negotiable. Am I making sense? Right?
Is that what's called the landing page?
Yes. To me, a landing page is just another page of the website. And I mean, in your case, with your bikini shop, you'll have different pages. And if you have clusters of pages, that's okay if it's all one style or one color or whatever. But if they're all mushed together, it's going to be a disaster. So yes, in Google AdWords, you're doing 3 things. You're bidding, which is an auction competition against everybody else for the phrase, polka dot bikinis, right? Then it's your ad copy, which is 25 characters, 35 characters, 35 characters, and then the display URL. And then there's the page it goes to on your website. And those are really the only 3 variables. Right? Now, and Google has a guideline, and I'll share it. They feel when you're setting up Google AdWords, you're going to have things called ad groups, which is clusters of search terms. Those should never have more than about 20 terms in them. All right? You can stretch that a little bit. Yep.
Is a term a keyword?
Yeah, a keyword phrase, a search phrase. So you need to cluster them. I know one company in America that creates an ad group for every search term. One word, that's an ad group. Well, that's a bit going over the top. But if you're providing a whole bunch of stuff, let's say it was, well, I'm going to keep using your bikini site because we were talking about it, or a swimsuit site. If we're going to stay with a swimsuit site, if you've got one pieces, that's one ad group where you're talking about one pieces, you know, from petite to oversized. Another one is tankinis or whatever it may be. Another one is bikinis, right? So each of those becomes a separate ad group. So they're clustered together. Why do you do that? You cluster it together so that you can write ad copy specific to that word and then take them to that portion of your site that reflects the word you were bidding on. So if it's one pieces, I put all my one piece words in one area. I can then write ads all about the greatest selection of one-piece swimming suits in Australia, overnight shipping, 24-hour delivery, da-da-da-da-da, and I land them on the section of the website that has all the one pieces in it. I do the exact same thing with a different ad group for bikinis. You with me?
Yep.
And that's how you slice it all up. Does that make sense? Funny that, I go back to what Aaron was talking about. Then when it comes to title tags and things that you're doing for SEO, of course you just don't put as the title tag for every single page in your website, my bikini website. You put, you know, bikinis, one pieces. Each page has its own title and its own description. So all this stuff comes full circle. So a lot of what you need to do to properly structure your site for AdWords also works for SEO, search engine optimization.
And Monty, all that title stuff, that's in there, that'll be in there, guaranteed.
It's in this document, all the title tags. If you're putting up images, it talks about all, I'll tell you what the 12 categories are. Unique, accurate page titles, using the description meta tag, improving your site structure, which is what I was talking about, make your site easy to navigate, optimizing for content, dealing with the crawlers using robot texts and submitting sitemaps into Google using Webmaster Tools, creating a mobile site, using social media, using analytics. It's all there. It's actually written in English. You will understand this, seriously. Unfortunately, it uses an American baseball card company as its example, but just think state of origin and it's the same thing. Okay, so it's not a big deal. When Google determines the quality score, they look at your ad groups, and the things that make up quality score are the click-through rate. Now the click-through rate means the amount of times that your ad's been displayed versus the amount of times that it's been clicked on. So if the ad's shown 100 times and it's been clicked on twice, that's a 2% click-through rate, which is Google's global benchmark. Most people that run Google AdWords campaigns, the ads are displayed 100 times, they get clicked on twice for a 2% click-through rate. I personally think that's a shit click-through rate. Most of our clients are operating between 5 and 6%, right? But 2% is their global average. It varies in different areas, okay? Now, the click-through rate, the better your click-through, Google's an odd company, very odd company. Let me explain. If you're bidding $1 for your bikini site, and I'm bidding 50 cents, right? You would think you're going to be above me and you're going to win the auction because you're bidding $1 and I'm bidding 50 cents. But if my click-through rate is better than yours, let's say only one person clicks on your ad and 3 people click on my ad, I just made Google $1.50. You only made them $1. They take my less bid-priced ad and put it above yours because I have a better click-through rate. Why do I have a better click-through rate? Because I write better ad copy than you. Right? That's what it's about. It's about writing the copy of the ad text. So click-through rate it factors into the quality score very, very strongly. So you need to have a high click-through rate. Now, the reason I say separate your ugly from your beautiful children is if you've got an ad group, you've got 20 keywords in there, and 3 or 4 of them are firing, and they're getting a 5, 6, 7% click-through rate, and then you got a couple of dogs in there that nobody ever clicks on, that lowers the overall click-through rate of the whole group. So your ugly children pull down your good-looking children. So the thing to do is to look at, after you've collected data for a week or two, look in there and say, oh, these keywords are performing really, really well, but I got a couple of dogs in here. Get rid of the dogs, because it's dragging down the average of everything, and that hurts your campaign. I get to audit lots of people's AdWords campaigns, and I look in there, and they've got their best performing keywords rocking it along. They're getting click-through rate 7, 8, 9, 20%, and there's these dogs in there. Makes no sense.
Is that why you said before that some people put just one phrase
Yeah.
in a group?
That's
so
it.
that it doesn't, the other phrases don't drag the quality of...
Don't drag it down. Yep.
Is there any way of putting those bad words or phrases in a don't see list or a don't access list or something?
Yeah, you're ahead of my slides.
Okay.
I am going to get to that. That's a good point. The short answer is yes. Right? But not mixing and matching stuff. Keep all your high performance words together, get rid of the bad ones, or put all the bad ones in their own group. Does that make sense? Okay. Don't mix and match your ugly kids with your good looking ones. Okay. There is a tool in Google called the keyword insertion tool. And it was really a clever tool. And what it basically said was, if you put a search into Google, like Sydney Harbor Cruises, they know, which is why they created this tool, that if you echo that phrase back in your ad copy, which these are all ads, people will go, I was looking for Sydney Harbor Cruises. There's Sydney Harbor Cruises. Isn't that cool? And that was a great tool until everybody did it. And now you see Sydney Harbor Cruises, and it highlights all these things. Sydney Harbor Cruises, and Sydney Harbor Cruises, and everybody's doing that. So all of a sudden you end up disappearing with all the other people. So I always split test the keyword insertion tool. What it basically does is, like I said, it will echo back the search phrase in the title. And not everybody has it running on this, but you can see it here, and that's why it's highlighted. You can see it there. You can see it here. Cruises from Sydney, Sydney Harbor Cruises. So everybody's been using that tool, and it's all inserted. I would, in this case, if I was competing in this environment, I'd change my head text. I need to tell you a couple things, too, about ad creatives. As I said earlier, that's 25 characters, and you get 35 characters in the display URL. Google knows that the two most important lines on those ads is the headline and the display URL. Those are the things that people look at most. And when they move an ad here from the left-hand side over to the right-hand side, they smush it all together and they do it in a slightly different way. But the bottom line is it's the headline and the display URL that people look at first. All right? So, I would, Sydney Harbor Cruises, the person searched on that, I would change that. I would put erotic, exotic, cruise of the harbor. The person already knows, because I bid on the word Sydney, it's going to trigger for that Sydney Harbor Cruise Tour. They're already looking for that. Now everybody else is sitting here saying Sydney Harbor Cruises, boring. So what am I going to put in there? Something to get their attention. Right? They've done that search. I know they've done that search. So now what am I talking about? Dusk cruises, morning cruises, topless cruises, whatever the case may be. I want to get somebody's attention. Does that make sense? So this is a tool that's a useful one to have, but you need to look to see if everybody's doing it and not do it if they are, because otherwise you don't stand out. Does that make sense? Now, Google has, when you put, this kind of gets into what you're talking about, but I'm going to address your specific issue on another slide. Google has 3 different match types, which is, and actually, if you look at Google's last quarterly report, they make $10 billion a quarter. Their actual cost per click has actually gone down. Because in the early days when everybody was bidding on stuff, they would bid on very generic and general terms. Those terms are now very competitive. If you're bidding on home loans as a term, they're $15 a click. It's very expensive, right? But if you go low doc home loans, which is for people like me that are self-employed, we know what a low doc home loan is. It means we've got to sell our kids to get money. That's a more specific term. You see what I'm getting at? Does that make sense? So, and when you set up those terms, you can say, I want a specific phrase to be exact. It has to be in this order. There's exact match, which means you put in terms. Now, and you're going to say, where do you get these terms? Google Analytics. You go into your analytics, and it'll show you what searches people have done to find your site organically. And you can sit there and say, people came to my websites that searched on polka dot bikinis. I'm going to bid on polka dot bikinis, just in that word, in that way. Polka dot bikinis. Not bikinis, polka dots. Polka dot bikinis. Right? So that, and I'm going to say that exact phrase. That's going to cost me a lot less. If I were to bid on just bikinis.
How often can you change those though?
Whenever you like.
Oh.
24/7.
So you
24/7.
can just change your bids according to the information.
Yeah. And the reason why Google...
That on the back of mine.
The reason why...
What they're searching for.
Yeah.
And I find each month that it changes.
Yeah, well, there's a thing called exact match, which means it has to be exactly in the same order. There's phrase match, where it can switch around, because market share and share market are two different things. The share market is where you buy and sell stocks. Market share is how much of a part of a market you own. So if I'm a market research firm, I want market share. I don't want share market. So I'm going to go exact in a particular order. See what I'm getting at? So there's three different things, and they got a broad match, which means Google will try to find anything it thinks that's even closely related to your topic. So if you put in, you wouldn't do this, but if you bid on the term swimsuit, and somebody searched for Aussie causies or bathers, your ad would still come up because they're going to associate bathers with swimsuits and Aussie causies with swimsuits. You with me? It gets you a lot more traffic, but the problem is it isn't particularly focused traffic, and it's expensive traffic. And the reason why the cost of Google ads has actually gone down in the last quarter is more and more people are going to exact match and phrase match, narrowing it down. They know not to be too generic. Right? Anybody in here know a PhD? God, those people piss me off. You know, they think they're so damn smart. And I had a friend of mine who was a PhD in psychology. And she was in one of these seminars just like you, and she got all done watching me do my thing, and she said, I'm smarter than you, I've got a PhD. I can do this myself. Bugger off. I said, okay. Then she got on the plane and went to Rome for her holiday. She's got a Visa Gold card like I do. It's got a $15,000 credit limit. When she went to check into the hotel in Rome, they said, we're sorry, your card's been declined. She'd set up a Google AdWords campaign and bid on the phrase counseling. And in the 3 days it took her to get from Brisbane to Rome, they vaporized her credit card. $15,000. Google does not give refunds. Google doesn't care if you want to sue, cry, stamp your foot. Right? Because she went on something too generic. But she got lots of clicks. And the person that needed the counseling after that was her. Happened to be financial counseling, but so Google has lots of information on these different things, but my point here is, again, very laser-focused stuff. And if you've structured your website right, and your shopping cart is correct, and you've got different products on different pages, and you can write very tight words that you think people looking for that are going to go for, then away you go. Does that make sense? Because then it all hangs together, and it affects your web design and everything else. This is an interesting slide. I've asked Google recently if it's still current, and it's pretty good. This is the amount of phrases we search on now. So less and less of us do a one-word search, because we know that if we search on diet, so then we come over here and we go Atkins diet, and then we go CSIRO low cholesterol diet. You see what I'm getting at? And we're now finding as a percentage, 30% are searching on 3-word terms and 25% on 4-word terms. So don't waste your time and your money bidding on generic phrases that are going to cost you a lot of money, get you a lot of traffic that isn't very specific, when the behavior of a searcher is becoming more refined. We're putting in more information. So I don't put in, apartment Gold Coast or holiday rental Gold Coast. I'll put in at Labrador, at Surfer's Paradise, and I'll put in 2-bedroom rental whatever. You see what I'm getting at? Yep.
I'm just noticing on my analytics that more and more people are actually exact matching their search results as well. So about 15 to 20% of my searches are coming in exact match key phrases.
Do you want to just explain how they
Sorry.
do that?
They place a generic search or a search that they're looking for with quotation marks.
Yep.
And that tells that will only search for words in that order.
Yeah.
The order that you type them in will be the order that you'll search for.
Yeah.
So it's popping up very clearly on the
Yeah.
on the analytics.
In the analytics, you're seeing it, that people are actually doing that to narrow their search. So, yeah.
Monty, in theory, would a 6 keyword phrase term, because you're only getting 5% searching for it, in theory would be slightly cheaper?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even though you might be adding a modifier like now or quickly or
Yeah.
grab,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but you've got fewer people searching at the same time, so you've got
Absolutely.
cheaper and fewer.
Yeah, but you're going to be able to, again, you're going to be able to see that in analytics of whether they've gone through, were they then engaged with the page, how much time on the site did they spend, where did they go. You can see the whole sales funnel in analytics. It's all there. So my point is, Google is dumbing us down. Does anybody even bookmark websites anymore? I don't. I just, I always won. I just type in whatever company I'm looking for and I hit go, and then, up it comes, and it's always in the top 2 or 3 results anyway. And, I can put in, Cadell Evans Tour de France, and I know I'm going to get to the Tour de France website, and it's going to tell me how Cadell did, and he ran over tax, and what's going on. So I don't have to bookmark it. It's just there. Google knows, And I can ask it things using Google Voice Search and just talk to the damn thing, and it'll come back, and it's usually pretty good too now on that. So, but my point is, they've taught us that if we start adding 3 and 4 word searches, we're going to get more accurate results, and more searchers have become that way. Yes?
Is location something that you should add to your keyword phrases, or is that something that Google automatically knows?
No. That's a brilliant question. Yeah, the question was about whether you put in location-specific information or local search stuff. And it's a really good question because there's a couple of things I need to talk about. First of all, when you set up an AdWords campaign, you can specify where you want it to show. So you can either draw on a Google map an outline. So I can include Raby Bay out to Toowoomba, up to Caloundra, down to Brisbane, and say I only want my ads to show up from people that are in that area. Now, there's an issue with that, because what it does is it looks at the IP address of your computer and it says, where are you located? If you happen to be connected with Telstra Big Pond, it assumes you're in Melbourne. If you happen to be doing a search on a mobile device, it assumes you're in Sydney. Problem? It's about 80 to 82% accurate, the geo-targeting. It's pretty good on countries. But then you've got a problem is, what if the searcher actually, and it looks at my IP address, and if I happen to be logged into Google Plus or something else, it knows where I am. If I happen to be using a smartphone, it's using the GPS to determine where I am, which is why I can take this thing and I can yell at Google and say, Thai restaurant, and it'll pop up Bon Thai and some ones that are right around me here, because it knows where I am. That's kind of cool, kind of creepy too, but so it does that really, really well if it can identify your location. The problem is, what if I'm in Sydney and I'm really trying to find a Thai restaurant in Toowong Village or around here because I'm coming up here for vacation? If I'm bidding on an ad now, it's not going to show that ad to me in Sydney. You with me? So there are some downsides to it. We tend to do two things to get around that. We will have a special, what we call a geo-targeted ad. We'll use Google's geo-targeting and say this is, and you can pick a radius. You can say within 10 kilometers of here, or there's lots of different ways to do it. But we'll also then run a generic ad, which will say we want it to run Australian-wide, but we will put in the ad copy Thai restaurant Toowong, QLD. We'll put that in the ad copy so that the ad will show up all over Australia, but we're hoping only people that are looking for one in Toowong will click on it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Now, Google has a number. Remember, Google is an advertising company. First, they just happen to own a search engine. They make 96% of their income comes from ads. 66 comes from search ads, which is where you put in a search query and the ads show up. The other 30% comes in for ads called AdSense. Have you been on other people's websites where you've seen Google ads? That's called AdSense. 30% of their income comes from that. 66 comes from search, and together that's 96%. The other 4% of their income comes from things they do just to piss off Microsoft and other people, you know, Google Apps and.
Don't Google pay though to have their ads placed on other people's websites?
Yeah, and they pay you. If I've got Aussie Web Local Search, and it's got a whole bunch of Google ads on it, and Google actually works with me to make those ads work. And so if you're bidding to be on my Aussie Web Local Search, it's funny because the biggest advertiser on my site is Census. And it costs them about $1 to have an ad on my site that gets clicked on, and Google gives me 70 cents of that, and they take 30 cents. That's the split, 70-30, roughly, give or take a percentage point. So, yeah. And Google deposits money into my bank account every month, and it's 5 figures. So I like it. Works. But my point is, Google's an advertising company. So when you go to set up an AdWords campaign, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to say, do you want your ads to be in the display network, which means it shows up on other people's sites, right? That should always be separate from the search network. Because when you see an ad on somebody else's site, you just happen to be there for some other reason, and there's an ad there. And it may be appropriate, because it's based on what the rest of that site's about. But it's not as good as somebody sitting down in front of their keyboard and typing, I'm looking for polka dot bikinis. Right? By default, they put you into both systems. Ooh, bad idea. You should have separate campaigns for your search terms, which is people typing in, versus campaigns where you're going to have your ads show up on other people's sites. Those should always be separate. Never mix those two. And now, Google now targets mobile devices. And I can tell you personally, 15% of the traffic to Aussie Web Local Search now comes from mobile phones. And Google has seen the growth of people searching on iPhones, Android phones, and iPads go up 5 times in the last 2 years. That's 5x. You frickin' little Gen Yers in the room here do all your stuff on the internet through mobile devices, right? I just came back from Shanghai and Malaysia. People have desktop computers at work. Nobody has them at home. They access the internet at home from a tablet or a smartphone. That's how they do all their searching. So it's very worthwhile considering running ad campaigns specifically targeted at mobile devices. Specifically, in my case, like I've got one of my clients is a locksmith. Well, he now gets about 40% of his traffic from mobile devices. Why? Because the person got home and the frickin' door's locked. When do they need a locksmith? Now! So what's in his ad? His phone number. And they search for locksmith Brisbane, and bang, he's up there. And when it comes displayed on a mobile device, there are only 2 ads on the top, not 3. His comes up, they hit the thing, it rings his phone because it says 24-hour service, and he answers the phone and says, where are you? And, you know, bang. So it depends on the service you're offering. I mean, unless there was a big riptide and I wandered out of the beach without my bikini top, I probably am not going to search for bathers right there. Plus, you probably don't deliver emergency services. It depends on what you're doing. But if you're, like if you were a restaurant or virtually any local business, particularly depending on your trading hours, I'd want to target mobile devices. Does that make sense?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is it possible to segment between different kinds of mobile users?
Yeah.
Like Android and iPad users?
Not so much that. You can separate in the mobile interface with Google now. You can separate by network, so you can frequently say Optus or Telstra or Vodafone. You can specifically target smartphones versus WAP-enabled phones, which is your old Nokia dumb ones that you can't browse the web with. No, because the iOS operating system is the same for an iPad as it is for an iPhone. So I don't think you're going to be able to segment that out.
What about by browsers? Because
No, you can't segment by browser. Google Analytics will tell you what browsers people are using that go to your website. Chrome is now past for people that use smartphones and halfway decent computers.
my site doesn't appear well on Internet Explorer. So when a user keys in Internet Explorer, can I just block them on a search?
No. And I'm not surprised it doesn't render well in Internet Explorer. It's a shit browser. Yeah, sorry about that. No, you can't target operating system or browser. Sorry. Not today. I'll pass it on to Google, see what they say. This is what you were talking about. And out of all that, I get to audit other people's AdWords campaigns every day. And invariably, I log onto their campaign and I look for negative keywords. And they don't have any. So there are searches when I go into the analytics, and I can see people are searching on terms that are resulting in people clicking on their ads that have no intent to buy, but the ad is showing up, and I want to take those and make those negative terms. So like one of my clients is Absolute Domestics. They're a house cleaning service, right? And Google was broad matching house cleaning with car cleaning. Well, they don't clean cars. And then they were matching it with carpet cleaning. Well, they don't clean carpets. I mean, they vacuum them, but these are domestic cleaners. They're not carpet cleaners. And so we had to put in there all these negative terms for carpet cleaning, car cleaning, tire and wheel cleaning. All these things, because we were seeing them showing up in analytics, that those were terms that were triggering our Google ads because they were modified broad matched, and we said no. So we put those in there as negatives. And I've got a whole set of negatives that I put in there, like song lyrics or lyrics, because a lot of people that are doing searches frequently are searching for lyrics. I put in free, because most of my clients don't have free. And I put in DIY, because we're not in the do-it-yourself market. So I have a whole list of standard negative keywords that I chuck into everything that I do, and then I look at the analytics and see what phrases are triggering my ads, and the ones that make no sense at all, I get rid of those. Right? Because you might find, again, if you're on bathing suits, you might find men's suits showing up if it's not targeted enough or you haven't structured your campaign correctly. So the biggest mistakes that people have is not using negative keywords. And I've got to say 90% of the campaigns I look at have 0. And therefore, when I look at them, I can see that they're probably bleeding 20 to 30% of their budget on their keywords that are triggering searches that people are clicking on that have no intention of buying at all. So it's really easy to improve that quickly for me.
That's worth the addition.
Yeah. Negative keywords, irrelevant search queries. And I see it all in analytics. But if I've done my analytics research before I set up my AdWords campaign, I know to put them negative in there to begin with. I don't have to spend money on dumb clicks to be smart. I live in a world of extremely small percentages, right? So if I've got a click-through rate that's 2%, and I raise that click-through rate to 3%, I have an orgasm. It's damned exciting. And I get people to tell me, well, what are you all excited about? That's 1%. I go back to high school, do your high school math. 2 to 3% is a 50% increase. 2 to 4% is a 100-fold increase. Right? Yes, the numbers are small, but they add up to huge results. Right? So I live in that small space, but those are really big numbers to me. You know, and if I can sit there and get an increase from 2% to 3% with a 50% increase, that's huge. And that means I'm getting huge amount of traffic from my clients, they're making lots of money, and I get invited to a lot of Christmas parties. And I do. Right? The other thing that we always do is we're always testing. And what we're testing, keywords we can kind of figure out over a short period of time, and we get that right. But it's the ad copy. I go back to my Sydney Harbor example. What's gonna work? And you know what? I don't know. But I test. So I'll write 2 ads. Cheap cruises on the Sydney Harbor. And then I'll put another one that's whatever. Small boat cruises if the guy's got a little tiny, or sailboat cruises. And I'll run both of those ads and I'll tell Google, show them 50% of the time, and then I'll see how many get clicked on. So I happen to know that if you're interested in learning karate, we can have learn karate simply or learn karate easily. And I happen to know that easily has a 300% better pull rate than simply. I don't know why, but I know it. How did I know it? Because I tested it. So we're constantly rewriting ads. And so if I got an ad that's got a 3.5% click-through rate, I go, rockin', baby. Woot, woot. So I write another ad. And I say, split test my good ad at 3.5% with this new ad. And I let it run. And Google will show both of them. And if it beats my 3.5% and it gets to 3 3/4, woohoo, it's my new best favorite good-looking kid. And the other one gets sacked. And so we're constantly testing in that environment. Because people ask, isn't it just, you set this thing up and you set and forget? No, you don't set and forget. It's changing all the time. And different words and things come into your vocabulary. If you're an IT providing company now, you got to be looking at things like cloud computing. Right? I had a client come in today who was doing some stuff, and I said, well, it sounds like what you're doing is outsourcing. Oh, yeah, that's a good word. Well, that outsourcing's only been around for a couple of years, cloud computing a couple of years. Right? Does that make sense? So you've got to constantly be checking and testing ads. I will split test 2 or 3 ads. Sometimes I'll have 3 ads in a race. That makes the math a little bit more difficult. 4 is you don't get enough traffic, it's not worth doing. So I do 3 or I do 2. 2 works easier for me because I'm a simple person.
Do you also look at the competition websites to get ideas? Do you look at your competitors?
Even better. One of the tools you can use to set up your Google AdWords campaign is a thing called Google AdWords Editor. And what has Google just added into the editor? Woohoo! Competitor analysis. I can now go into Google AdWords, and if there is enough search traffic, now mind you, if you're selling horse blood plasma, there isn't enough competition. But if you're in the used car business, oh yeah. And I can go in there, I happen to do North Star Motor Group out in Margate, and I can go in there and I can see what Motorama is kind of doing. I can't see what words they're bidding on, but I can see that they're a competitor and whether their ads are showing more often than mine or less. If it's more often, they got a bigger budget. If it's less, they got a smaller budget. So, and it will show me the competitors that I'm up against in that area. And that's just a new feature that just came live within the last 2 months. And it only works for reasonably trafficked terms, right? If anybody can tell you that they can tell what words they're bidding on or anything else, that's all bullshit. You can't see it. But at least it'll tell you who are the other players in your field, right? There's probably enough in the bikini business that you would
I think I fell across that the other night.
that you would log in there and you would probably see 20 different websites, and it would be,
That's what I fell across.
I don't know, maybe it's Billabong and whoever else is bidding on those terms, and you'll see how competitive it is and what the costs are, and even what positions some of their ads are in. It just won't tell you what the ad copy is nor the keywords they're bidding on. Yes?
How accurate is compete.com and the like?
It's really accurate if you live in America. It's shit if you're here.
Which one was that, sorry?
Compete.com. So I know Rand Fishkin, who runs SEO Moz. Lovely guy. He's got all sorts of great tools. So does Bruce Clay. I was with Bruce Clay in Sydney just a couple of months ago. Great guy too. Their data on Australian search stuff is crap. They just don't have it. They haven't collected enough of it. You got to understand there's only 22 million loving souls here. California's got 30 million people, one state. So unfortunately, that's a challenge. So a lot of those things, SpyFu and a lot of all these other things don't have a hell of a lot of value. And in fact, you do better to go and use Google's tools, because if you're using something like Google Insight, you can target Australia. You can say, I just want Australia, and if it's a trending topic that something's recent, like carbon tax, you can say, and I want just all the search terms related to carbon tax in Australia for the last 3 months. Frick, that's pretty good. And that's coming right out of Google's database.
What about Google Trends?
Google Trends is good too. I prefer Insights to Trends. But Trends is good for catching trending topics, exactly what it says. But Google Insights, like I said, you can spread it out over any period of time, and you can target just the web, or you can do all sorts of stuff.
What about a tool called Market Samurai?
Yeah,
It's a pretty good tool.
it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's having issues with Google at the moment.
Yeah.
It's not entirely reliable at Google.
Yeah. See, a lot of these tools all depend on using Google's API and tying into Google's backend to pull data out, which I'm able to do because I'm one of their partners. But Google gets very sticky when you start playing with their backend or rebundling it and selling it for cash and doing all sorts of things. And it's never a good idea to piss off Google. Because if they ban your site, burn that domain and start over. You're never going to get it revisited. You're not, sue them, do whatever you like, you're gone.
Do you use the traffic estimator tool?
Google's traffic estimator tool, not much. It has variations of 100 to 300%. Well, how frickin' accurate is that? And the point is, I can set up, to me, Google's a testing environment. I can set up an AdWord campaign, I can whack a $20 budget against it, I can run it for 3 or 4 days, I can get 100 clicks, which is statistically significant, and then I can estimate all the traffic myself. And since I can then use what's called the impression share report, it'll tell me the amount of clicks I'm missing because of my rank, which is whether I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, how much I'm losing because of budget, and how much I'm getting. Now that's an actual result because they're reaching into my wallet and taking my money.
Yeah.
So,
how do you estimate traffic if you are creating something from scratch on your website and you want to determine a budget for that traffic? Can you do it before having the website actually getting?
yeah, I'll use Google Insights. If you're logged in with a Google account, it'll give you some volumes there so you can see. And Google has their public AdWords tool as well, their keyword research tool where you can do investigations, and it'll tell you how many searches there are and how competitive it is and that sort of stuff. But like I said, the easiest way to test is just to set it up and run it and just do it for a very short period of time and then get all your reports and look at analytics.
Yeah, because I've taken the keyword tool.
Yes?
And it tells me, for example, 100 clicks in Australia
Yep.
per month.
Yep.
And then I check the traffic estimator tool.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how much I pay or exactly the same term, I don't get any clicks. Like, it's not the same.
No, that's why I said I don't trust the estimator tool. That's why I use Insights. Yeah. But again, I get people that come and they say, we want to get all this extra traffic, and I'm like, do you? If the traffic's not going to convert, why am I doing it? Unless it's just vanity and I want to show up there, counseling. Bad idea. $15,000 in 3 days. Not bad.
So you're talking there about volume, getting the volume of, so you're talking about high volume keyword searches. So unless they're high volume, you work on, is that what you're saying?
I don't, too many of the high volume search terms are too generic.
Okay.
Somebody searching on plasma TVs. Well, they're doing research. They're not in the buying mode. When they get from plasma TV to LG plasma TV, now I'm interested because at least they've picked a brand. And then if they get to LG plasma TV 42-inch, I'm just about ready to stick the model number on the ass end of that search because I know I'm getting close to somebody who's already determined the brand they want, the technology they're using, the brand they want, the size they want. Now they're nearing buying. So I want to tell them, we've got 10,000 LG 42-inch plasma TVs in stock and can have it delivered to you within 37 seconds.
But what if that search word term is only getting less than 10 searches a month? What do you do then? If it's still use it?
Sure.
Is it,
Yeah,
is it
yeah.
still-
Long tail search term, that's fine.
Yep.
It's first of all, it's probably going to be 3 or 4 or 5 words long. It's not going to get searched on very often. When it does, my ad's going to show. And assuming that I've done a good job, I'm going to get a decent click-through rate. It's just that I'm not going to get a lot of traffic. But that's long tail stuff. I do long tail stuff all day long. I love it. I think it's great. Because we do it for a lot of used car dealers where we actually take a feed of their inventory. So if you're looking for a blue Jeep Cherokee 2005 and it's in their stock, bang, the ad shows up. Now, that person's pretty damn qualified. All they need to know now is the kilometers and the mileage, and the price, and they're either going to buy or not. But I'm not going to bid on the term Jeep Cherokee. Too generic. Which is why Google's click cost has come down, because everybody around the world has figured this out. Be more focused. Right? So it's test, change, rinse, wash, repeat. Rinse, wash, repeat. It's a continual process. So don't think Google AdWords is a set and forget process, because it isn't. You need to keep there and look at it daily. And you can set up alerts, because you're liable to find that your position drops because some new idiot enters into the field and they're bidding up the cost as everything and it goes through the roof. They're only going to last for a few days and then they'll be broke. If I go and do a search on Google for a search term that one of my clients has, if I see no ads, I'm worried, because that means either people have tried and failed, or there's just... If I see a few ads, I like that. And if I go back in a week or two and I see those same ads again, I like that, because that means that whoever's doing that advertising, it has to be paying for itself or they wouldn't keep doing it. Right? If I see lots and lots of ads, I think, shit, it's a bit too competitive, probably. If that makes sense. Right. Regardless of whether you go down the search engine optimization track or you do Google AdWords, I think everybody that has a website should at least do Google AdWords, if for no other reason than this. If you came to me from your website, let's say you got your bikini site, and you say, hey, I want to sell my bikini site. And I go, geez, I'm interested in buying bikini sites. That's cool, you know, love the models. And I say, how do you get all your traffic? If you say, oh, it's all free. I've got great SEO. I get all my traffic for free. I'm going to run. Because Google keeps changing the knob. Whether it's the Panda update or the Penguin update or whatever it is, they keep changing the knob. And all you need to do is fall from page 1 to page 2, and I can guarantee you that 95% of your traffic's gone like that in one day. So I always tell people, you've got to know what it costs to buy a customer. How many times does your ad have to show? How many times does it have to get clicked on? How many times do they have to go to your site? And you can track all this in Google, and particularly with a shopping cart, it'll actually say what search term resulted in the person going through, buying something, and checking out. And it'll tell you that. And you'll go, rightio, I spent $10 to sell a $50 item that cost me $25, so I got $25 left, and it took me 10, so my net profit is $15. You have to be able to do that math. Because if you can't, I'm never going to buy your business, because I don't trust SEO, because it's one twist of the knob and it's gone. But I know if I can pay to be on the front page of Google, particularly I always want to be in those top 3 positions, because you saw the eye tracking study, that's where everybody clicks. I know if I can get there, and if I can do that profitably, I'm laughing. And I'll have clients that'll come to me and they'll sit there and say, rightio, you know, here, spend some money, and I'll spend some money for them, and I'll spend $100 and they'll make 80. They say, Google doesn't work. I say, no. I've just proved that it works, just not very well. Right? Because I spent 80 and you spent 100 and you only made 80. So then I twink the campaign, change the ad copy, put in some more negatives, change it around, and then they spend $100 and they make $150. Still may not be making any profit, but it's working a lot better than when they were only making 80. And then I twiddle it again some more, and then I spend $100 and they make $300, and guess what? I get invited to the Christmas party. Right? And so I normally start out with low budgets. I have one client today that's spending $800 a day with us. $800 a day. And he's on the phone to me saying, can you buy me more traffic? He sells water coolers. I'm like, how many different ways can I spell water? You know, H2O, water, wet. You know, I've done everything I can. So what I did was I started him a Yahoo campaign. Now his Yahoo campaign, he doesn't spend anywhere near $800. He spends like $80. but his click costs are 1/4 of what Google charges. The traffic is much cheaper on Yahoo. The problem is there isn't a lot of it. I ran a Facebook campaign for him. Big failure. Didn't work. Got lots of traffic, but it didn't convert to any sales. Facebook works fine if you're doing, I happen to have done this Facebook campaign for a fellow here in town named Campbell Newman. You ever heard of him? I ran a campaign for 30 days for him on Facebook just before the election. Got 4.5 million page views. If you went to the little girl he was competing against, her website, you'd see his ads. I did that. Worked fine for him. Works fine for our absolute domestics, for our cleaning services. Works for dating sites. Works for weight loss. Works for quit smoking. Does not work for business to business. I've never had a successful business to business campaign on Facebook. I've run successful business to business campaigns on LinkedIn, but not on Facebook. Okay.
On the, you're saying that to get that top 3 site, you don't want the right-hand side, do you? Can you control that? Or
Yeah, that's just, it's the amount of money you're willing to bid and your quality score and everything else. You can see there's occasionally some people click over here. Occasionally. But half the time, if it's a local search, there'll be a Google map sitting over there that'll...
You can't control that, can you?
Yeah, you can. Oh yeah, you can.
So I know I've had ads that have gone both sides.
Yeah, and Google will do that. And even if you have an unlimited budget and you're building $1,000 a click, you won't be in the #1 position all the time anyway. They won't ever do that. But I do know that on a typical Google search, you're going to ask me for the citation on this one, and I'm probably not going to be able to give it to you. But about 50% of the people click on the first listing, 25% on the second, 12% on the third, right? And as you saw earlier yourself, Aaron, when you were live to the net, if on the top of Google, when on top of a Google search, there's a very pale background around the 3 ads. And it keeps getting paler. And depending on what monitor you got, you don't see it. And 50% of the Australians that click on one of those ads don't even know it's an ad. They think it's an organic result, which is exactly what Google wants you to think. They don't want you to know they're ads, because they make money when you click on the ads. They don't get money when you click down here. Right? And yes, you can position yourself there by increasing your bid price and improving your quality score. And my own opinion is you should just outsource this to a company like mine. And the only reason I say that is we've audited, I've audited probably close to 1,000 AdWords campaigns to date, and I've only found 2 that I couldn't significantly improve. It's no longer a do-it-yourself environment. The damn tools, it just keeps getting more and more complex. Google comes to my office every quarter to train my staff. I've got 6 qualified guys, and we can't keep up. And now they've got video ad formats, and then they've got little location stuff coming in, and they keep changing things. And it's just, I think you need to, like you should outsource getting your website sorted out, you should outsource your AdWords, and you should spend all of your time figuring out how you can make your business special and different with your bikinis, whatever it is. Whether it's that you're sourcing them from Malaysia for cheap and they're better, or whether they, whatever it may be, you should focus on your business. And AdWords I haven't seen very many do-it-yourself campaigns. And even those that I have, when they introduced Quality Score a year ago, a lot of people that had run their own good campaigns saw it fall in a heap. And then they all called me then and said, "Can you fix it now?" And I go, "Well, yeah, I can." Because it keeps changing. So you won't be able to keep up. Any questions? Yes, sir.
About goals.
Goals?
About it.
Yeah.
There are 2 ways of creating them. One in Google AdWords and another in Google Analytics.
Yep.
Which one do you use? Or because I have some in both, but I don't know how to link them. And I'm measuring the same thing in both.
First of all, you can link your AdWords and your analytics campaign together, and you should. You should link them. Because that way and you should link it with cost data. So it'll actually flow through all the data from AdWords into analytics. I set up most of my goals in analytics, and I have different goals, because I'll have a goal for when there's a sale, A direct sale, that's worth something. But I've got another goal for if they fill out the form to join the mailing list, because that still has value to me, because I can then communicate to them. Or if they download a white paper, or if they watch a video. So I'll have a whole series of goals to track the performance of my website.
Yeah, I found that in the AdWords goal setting thing, there is no many options.
No, do it in analytics. Analytics is a more powerful tool for goal setting.
And then can I link it to Google AdWords?
Yeah, AdWords can link to analytics, and you can have a sales funnel thing. I do almost all my analysis in analytics now. And more of Webmaster Tools is being placed into analytics as well. Analytics is where is going to be the big meaty thing, which is why the very first slide that I started with said, start with analytics.
Can you put your contact details up on the...
Yeah. Shoot.
To get back to your point earlier on, when you reach organic search, I have several page 1 ranked websites in Google, but I also run several campaigns for those exact sites, paid search sites, in Google as well.
Yep.
Because it gives me a double listing on page 1.
Yep, that's an excellent thing, and I can tell you actually the maths for that, and Google knows it. 1 + 1 does not equal 2. 1 + 1 equals 3.1. So, because I get people that sit there and I run their AdWords campaign, and they say, yeah, great, I'm on the front page of Google. Will you do some SEO magic for me now? And I go, yep, and we do some SEO magic. And then all of a sudden they show up on the front page again. And they ring me up and say, cancel my AdWords. I go, no. You're there twice. And the person sees you twice. First of all, I'm pushing one competitor off the page. Right? And then don't get me wrong, if I got a places listing, then I got a triple whammy. So now I'm 3 times on the front page of Google. Hello. And like I said, the number is 1 + 1 equals 3.1. So no, I do both.
Everybody do the same.
Yeah.
So what do you think Google AdWords is better than organic? Because with Google AdWords, if you, for example, use up your budget, the link disappears and replaces by another one, or it only shows at particular times of the day. Whereas organic, if you have a rank on the front page, it stays there unless there's a Google algorithm.
Until there's an algorithm change. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against organic traffic. Get free traffic. Yes, please. And in fact, if you do a real smart thing, it's what I call reputation management. So if you Google my name, Monty Hipsch in Google, you'll find out that what comes up is my website, my Facebook page, my LinkedIn profile, my YouTube channel, my Twitter handle. By the way, I don't do half those things. I just set them up to get my name there, but I control all that content. So I'm there multiple times, but that's just for my own name, and my last name is a mouthful, which is why it's not up here. I have no problem with SEO. I think if you can get free traffic, do it. But if you're an addict to it, you're a very bad addict, because when the drug dealer leaves town, you're in withdrawal, and serious withdrawal. So, you know, and yes, again, if you go into Google Analytics, you can analyze when the traffic is coming to your site. So if you find out that you're a B2B business that's selling enterprise software and all the searches are between Monday and Friday, 9 to 5, then run your ad campaign Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. If you don't want stay-at-home moms and work-from-home people that are searching on evenings and weekends, don't run your ads during evenings and weekends. And more people are now doing this, which is why Google's click per cost has come down, because they're being more focused around those things. And that's all just coming from analytics. Yes, sir?
Monty, if you have 3 completely unrelated products, websites that you're running,
Yes?
it makes some sense to have 3 separate AdWord accounts, one for each, so that either, if one gets banned, it doesn't ban the others. If you sell the second website, it doesn't, and you can sell all of the data with it rather than and keep the others discreet. Is there a reason not, apart from the mathematics of which account am I using?
No. We personally, we set up separate Google account for every URL. So even if you came to me and you said, hey, I'm a chiropractor and I fix people over here, but I also have another business that does therapeutic massage, and that's got a different URL. I put those in completely separate accounts, because then they are completely separate, and there'll never be any stuff up in there. I mean, I could set up multiple campaigns in one account, but I don't do that. I always set them up separately, based on the domain, for every domain.
Any further questions for Monty? No.
Just a quick one.
Yep.
This comes down to before where you were saying about focusing on your business. I had Google AdWords there for, we've tried it a couple of months. I do mobile DJ work. I specialise in weddings. I work in Brisbane.
Yep.
So I ran a couple of different campaigns, and I always had in there wedding, DJ Brisbane wedding.
Yep.
I'd find I get about 3 or 4 people a day come to have a look at the site.
Yep.
And that went for a couple of months. I never had a single email come in from anybody doing an inquiry. So would you say that, and not everybody wants a wedding DJ.
Yep.
At any given point in time, there aren't that many people that want DJ. Yep. Especially a wedding one.
Yep.
Would you say that would be not have been focused? Would that have been the problem?
No, I would.
People were coming.
I will bet you a bottle of Penfolds wine, if I looked at analytics, the problem was they weren't being engaged in the site, or they weren't finding out what the price was, or they did find out what the price was and they went, I don't think it was, I think that search term, mobile DJ weddings, is specific enough, and if somebody's looking for that, they're looking for you. Why they didn't inquire is because they either got to the site and you had a form they had to fill out and they just wanted to pick up a phone and talk to somebody.
No form, a mid-range on price, specialising in weddings, very good professional photographs.
Yeah.
Probably have to see the site.
Yeah, I imagine that, but there would be something
sounds like a
that.
conversion issue rather than a traffic.
Yeah.
It's an engagement and conversion issue.
Okay.
Almost invariably.
Yeah, that's I figured. I was sitting here listening to you and I thought, must be something on there that they don't like.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of points about. Do I have time, or am I wasting time?
Yeah, we've got a few more minutes, and then we'll just break and mingle.
Okay. A couple of things, just website audit stuff that you ought to know. Right. First of all, don't build your frickin' site in Flash. In fact, I don't even suggest people put Flash on their site at all anymore, because to me it's just flashturbation. But the problem is it won't render on iPhones, it won't render on iPads, it's slow, so just don't do it. Second of all, limit your navigation. For you women in the room, I know you can multitask. God bless you, that's great, but I'm a simple human being and I'm a male. I can only do one thing at a time. So don't give me 27 buttons and things on it. Just give me 1 or 2 things that make it simple so I know what's going on. Keep the navigation down. I think your contact details should be on every single page with the phone number in the upper right-hand corner. I think the Contact Us page is redundant. It should be gone, because your phone number ought to be in the upper right-hand corner and the rest of your details ought to be down on the footer anyway. And it helps with Google Places anyway. The website, for the most part, should not scroll, because people don't scroll anymore. So keep your pages short so that everything's above the fold. All right? Have a simple and clear and concise call to action. Right? I get into too many websites that they want me to sign up for the newsletter, they want me to download this, they want me to go over here, they want me to buy that, they want me to watch this. Oh, for Christ's sakes. People used to go to a website and spend 12 seconds to decide whether they'd engage with your site or not. Now it's down to 8. And by the way, this is sexually biased. Women make the decision in 5 seconds. It takes us lesser human beings 10 seconds, and there's slightly more men than women on the internet, so it averages out at 8. So if you don't engage me when I land on that page within the first 5 seconds, you're screwed. Right?
If your page takes 10 seconds to load, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and Google now does determine part of your page ranking based on how quick it is, the speed. And then the last thing is, I have an advantage over about 70% of people in the room because I'm blind, which is great, because I can just take off my glasses and squint at a screen. And when I look at your website and I squint at the screen, the most prominent thing that stands out graphically should be what you want me to do. So if it's to call, and this is going to piss off the graphic designers, if it's to call you, then, and you've got this beautiful blue and green site, I want the phone number red. Dog's balls. I want it to stand out. right? If it's to sign up for your newsletter, then I want the sign up here, submit button to be purple, right? I piss off lots of graphic designers with this. But your eye is going to be attracted to the visually most striking element, and that should be your call to action. If it's a shop, it's buy now, order, all right? Does that make sense? So keep the navigation simple, don't let it scroll, don't use flash. Simple call to action, which really ought to be on every page. You can probably get rid of the contact us page. Those are just some audit techniques from, like I said, I don't need your money. So I sit there and some people come to me and say, drive traffic to my website. And I look at it and go, that's an ugly kid. And I don't like telling people they got ugly kids. It upsets them, it upsets me.
The bounce rate, is that when people come on and go off with these?
They came, they saw, they vomited. So if it's over 50%, you got a problem.
Okay.
They're not engaging with the site. You're going to have a hard time getting it much below 20% because part of the bounce rate's determined by robots and other stuff.
Right.
But if it's over 50%, I'd start to worry. Unfortunately, because people have been taking my advice and putting their phone number on every single page in their site, and now Google's making us all lazy, so I just Google the name of your business and I go to your website, and what I'm really doing is trying to find the phone number to call you because I haven't bothered to put it anyplace else. So sometimes bounce rates can go up in that situation. But that should be reflected in whoever's answering the phone saying, how did you find us? And they say, oh, I just Googled you. You should then be able to track. Yeah.
Well, I think we might close the formal part of the evening and just head to Q&A. So, everyone, thanks very much, Monty, for giving us that presentation. Much appreciated.
Not a worry.